Thank you for joining us on today's episode of Tax Matters. It's a new month, the beginning of the fourth and last quarter of year 2020. Economists call it Q4. We thank God that we are all still here. Of course, it is still in order to wish all Nigerians a very happy 60th birthday. It is a year-long celebration. The other week, we went into town to feel the pulse of the public on tax matters. We wanted to know from members of the public what it would take to diversify the Nigerian economy away from its monolithic nature. We did serve you some of our findings in our last episode. We want to kick off today's episode with some more.
I discovered that Nigeria just put all their energies on oil revenue. Times will come that people will not be dealing with oil again. So Nigeria needs to sit down and have a good plan on ground to start looking at other areas that they can start generating revenue, like energy. For instance, now solar energy can bring income. Nigeria should start looking outside fuel stuff. They should try to create small revenue, like small things that can bring money. And the truth is, for an economy to grow and to be normal, you need to invest in your youth. The investment that you put on your youth, that's what will bring out the best in them.
Yes, this fuel subsidy issue has to be removed so that they can utilize it to improve Nigeria economy and also to use it to do infrastructure so that the individual of Nigeria can benefit from it. You can generate more revenue on taxes. E.g., the federal government has to open that toll gate. The toll gate that they dismantle from each state at different locations. So I'm sure if they bring that toll gate, it will generate more revenue.
I strongly believe that for me to pay tax, there should be something that the government should do for me that will make me pay this tax.
That was just as if on cue. Remove fuel subsidy, reintroduce toll plazas. This was in the midst of the brouhaha generated by the announcement of government's removal of subsidy on PMS. Our focus on today's episode of Tax Matters is how the deregulation of the pricing of PMS will impact the Nigerian economy in general and the tax system in particular. We sat down with some stakeholders. But before we bring them on, this from Mr. President Muhammadu Buhari in his Independence Day broadcast.
Fellow Nigerians, in addition to public health challenges of working to contain the spread of coronavirus, we have suffered a significant drop in our foreign exchange earnings and internal revenues due to 40% drop in oil prices and steep drop in economic activity, leading to a 60% drop in government revenue. In this regard, sustaining the level of petroleum prices is no longer possible. The government, since coming into office, has recognized the economic argument for adjusting the price of petroleum. But the social argument about the knock-on effect of any adjustment weighed heavily with the government. In the circumstances, a responsible government must face realities and take tough decisions. Petroleum prices in Nigeria are to be adjusted. We sell now at 161 naira per litre. A comparison with our neighbors will illustrate the point. A. Chad, which is an oil-producing country, charges 362 naira per litre. B. Niger, also an oil-producing country, sells 1 litre at 346 naira. C. Ghana, another oil-producing country, petroleum pump price is 326 naira per liter. Further afield, Egypt charges 211 naira per liter. Saudi Arabia charges 168 naira per liter.
London, New York or Lagos, business or holiday, home or office, you can now carry out your tax transactions from anywhere in the world. You can now file all your tax returns, pay online, get a receipt and even process your tax clearance certificate from anywhere in the world online and in real time. All you need to do is log on to www.firs.gov.ng and click on e-services and be introduced to the world of innovation, convenience and transparency from the FIRS. You can also pay stamp duty as you register a new company with the CAC or for other transactions that require stamp duty payment online. You can also file your withholding tax returns and determine the withholding tax deducted from you is in government coffers so that you can get your receipt within 45 days as long as the deduction has been remitted. Yes, all of this and more online at www.firs.gov.ng/e-services. FIRS, making tax administration as easy as ABC. Please note that all FIRS services are free of charge. This message is from the Federal Inland Revenue Service. It pays to pay your tax.
Welcome to our guest corner. Mr. Taiwo Oyedele is the fiscal policy partner and West African tax leader at PwC. Sir, the removal of fuel subsidy has resulted or generated a lot of furor among Nigerians. Now, could you give us a sense of what the regime of subsidy operated over the years has done to the economy?
We've been on subsidy now for decades, a long time. I think it started during the military era. And that was because there was a general sense that because we are an oil-producing economy, we should not be spending so much to buy the resources that God has endowed us with. It was a wrong economic mindset and model. But then once it has started, it continued and it became very difficult to get out of it. Such that at a point, I think about around 2012, there was a National Assembly committee, probe committee, that estimated that Nigeria could not account for or at least have lost about $6.8 billion to subsidy, fraud, and scam. And if you estimate over the past 5 to 6 years, it's easily close to about 10 trillion naira. So what this means is we're spending more money to subsidize petrol in particular, because we need to be aware that diesel, which is AGO, has been deregulated, which means factories, heavy vehicles, mass transit buses like Molo in Lagos, they don't use petrol, they use diesel. They're already paying commercial price, no subsidy. Kerosene is already deregulated, which means the poor man, the poor woman in the village who's trying to cook and using kerosene is not enjoying any subsidy. So petrol is the one that is enjoying subsidy, but unfortunately, the benefit doesn't go really to the poorest people. So the poorest people, 80 million multidimensionally poor people, most of them are in villages. They don't even have to enter transport. They trek to the farm. They don't have cars, so they don't buy fuel into their vehicles. So we have trillions and trillions of naira being wasted on subsidy, a lot more than the amount of money we're spending on infrastructure, on healthcare and education combined. So this really is not the way to go for a country like us, where we need all the money we can get to take care of infrastructure and our people. It's even sad that a lot of this subsidy is not even being enjoyed by Nigerians at all, except for a few people who are corrupt, who will then buy the fuel at subsidized amount, take it across the border and go and sell at 300 or 350 naira and make almost twice the amount, but for their own benefit at the expense of Nigeria.
Mr. Gabriel Ogunjemilisi is the Director, Large Taxpayers Department, Oil and Gas at the FIRS. Sir, it does seem that finally we've agreed to regulate the petroleum prices, PMS. What does this mean for the Nigerian economy?
By deregulating now, it will definitely release a lot of funds to fund productive sector of the economy, rather than using it to subsidize even the PMS that we use. It is going to have a multiplier effect. Number one, the money will be used to develop our infrastructures, which will open up the economy, to make job availability to our citizens, the youth that are not getting job to work, they have work to do. And it will also relieve the government of the costs they are spending to police the smuggling of this white product across the border of Nigerians. So take this together, it is definitely going to have positive effect on the Nigerian economy. The budget of the government also, it's not likely that we are going to have more of this deficit budget that we have been having over the years. Because we look at how much we have been spending to subsidize oil, it's far more than the money that we have been using on capital projects and others. So it's like relieving the country of a lot of things. So we believe that our economy will come back stronger and better.
On one hand, it means that for everyone who is buying petrol, again, I'll say, diesel and kerosene, lubricants, all those are already deregulated. So people are already paying, commercial amount for them. But for petrol, it means that if you have a vehicle, you have to spend more. For small businesses, they have small generators, the one that they'll say, I better pass my neighbor, for example. They use petrol, you have to spend more. Also for transportation, because, the price of, moving from point A to point B is likely to increase. But I have to also mention that, unfortunately, whenever there's any slight increase in the price of petrol, people take advantage of it to exploit Nigerians, which I think is really unfair. When the price of diesel goes up, it doesn't mean that the fare goes up, because the Molue people, the intercity transport, the trucks already are adjusting to it. So, but if, for example, you are coming from Ikeja and you're coming to Obalende, and it's supposed to be 300 naira, a 14-passenger seater bus, will probably spend about 1 gallon, which is about 4 liters of petrol to do that trip. If the price of petrol has moved up from 145 to about 160, that's about 15 naira extra per liter, which means for that one trip, it's about 4 liters, which is about 60 naira. Even if you carry 12 passengers, the increase is only 5 naira. But they will increase the fare from 300 to 500. There's no justification for that other than exploitation. So we need to speak to ourselves as Nigerians. So this is the impact you find in terms of individuals, businesses, and those who are doing transport business. But for Nigeria, the impact is that we borrow less. We need to be aware that in Q1 of 2020, we spent 99.2% of federal government revenue to service debts. That's not sustainable. We should not be borrowing money to subsidize petrol that does not go to the poorest people. We should rather save that money for investment. So I think that in terms of the financial sustainability of the country, we're going to be in a better position, but we also have to be prudent how we spend the money.
Now, is this the right time?
That's a very important question. Is it the right time? It's a tough question to answer, because people are very angry at this time, and it's justifiable because things are difficult. But the reality is that it's when you are in a crisis that you need to cut waste. Yeah. And if subsidy is largely money being wasted, there's no better time to cut it than now, because we cannot afford it. Government revenue is going down because of the crisis. But government expenditure is going up because they have to do palliatives, they have to fund the budget, they have to pay salaries of civil servants, they have to still spend money on infrastructure. And by the way, the savings does not go to the federal government alone. It's money that is going to all levels of government, which means even states, many of them are struggling to even pay salaries. It is not right for us to insist that we have to continue to borrow to subsidize fuel, and then which means in future we either pay the money back by way of higher taxes, or we leave it to our future generations. So our children unborn will come and be paying debt for the money that we wasted on fuel subsidy. That is not the Nigeria I want for my children.
Mr. Yomi Olubenro is a partner and West Africa tax leader at Deloitte. The price of PMS has been finally deregulated. What does this mean for the Nigerian economy?
Subsidy in its simplest form means the government is paying part of the cost of rendering a particular service or producing a particular good to the people. And so what it means is that over the years, the landing cost of PMS or petrol, as we always say, is a lot more than the amount that Nigerians are meant to pay at the filling station. So the differential is what represents the amount that the government has been investing, or the amount the government has been paying in order to bring the price to the level that it was. What that means is that cumulatively over a decade or over a series of years, we've had trillions of naira, which otherwise could have been applied on other, services, health, education, infrastructure, and all of that, with the attendant inefficiency, with the attendant leakages, and with the attendant corruption that a lot of people have spoken to over many years. That's what we've had in the previous years when the regime of subsidy was in force. So if you've listened to the commentaries, since the announcement of food deregulation or removal of subsidy, you will have had argument on two sides. First is on the side of the government and on the side of those who really didn't support the use of these very scarce resources that we have, saying, at least now we have an opportunity to be able to make some huge savings from the amount that could otherwise have been paid by way of subsidy and channel that resource to more critical sector of the economy, like education, like health, like infrastructure, and a whole lot of other things. So that's on the one side. But on the other side, what it also means is that, unlike before, when government has been the go-between between the actual price and how much people are paying, we now have a case where everyone will need to pay a fair amount for the cost of petrol, for the cost of PMS. So in literal sense, it means the pump price, as we've seen it over the last few days, will have to go up from what it used to be. So some bit of price increment to reflect what the open market rates or open market prices are for a liter of fuel. But more importantly is the amount of savings that I believe the country stand to gain, especially at a time like this when there is paucity of funds, when there is government is counting around to see how much of revenue we could make to get the economy going, to get the economy reflated, to make sure that the critical sectors of the economy that require that fund, we could make available those funds for it.
But is this the right time?
Well, if the question about being the right time is about a time when everybody will agree, a time when there will be no pain, a time when we will feel we have all the resources to be able to remove fuel subsidy, I'm afraid there won't be a good time. There won't be a right time. But the question is it the right thing to do? I think the absolute answer from an economic standpoint and from where we stand as as a country in terms of what are our major needs and how can we utilize the little that we have in our hands. So if the question is it the right thing to do, I would say an absolute yes. Is it the right time to do it? You will never get to that time when everybody will agree or where it will be painless. We've got to make some sacrifices, and that's what we have to do at this time. We all need to get to a point where we realize that this is an economic decision, this is for the survival of the country, and then we can channel our energy towards making sure that if indeed we are making sacrifices or the citizens are making sacrifices in seeing the subsidy removed, we all then must raise our voices to make sure that whatever savings we make from the removal of subsidy is then applied to sector that can benefit everybody, or more importantly, benefit the people at the lower end of, of the equation, which are the people that the government in its own original sense thought it was protecting by having the fuel subsidy in.
Let's look at the expected gains of this deregulation for the tax system.
Before I go to the tax system, let's also look at, because I'm going to connect it to tax system at the end, what this means that government is no longer fixing the price of the crude. The market forces will determine the price of the product. So what you produce, you sell at that price. It can go up, it can come down. Now that the crude oil price is low, it's still low, but it is expected that this regulation will open up our refineries. More individual investors, private investors will go into refinery businesses, and that means the products are going to be produced locally. The importation of white products to Nigeria comes with a high landing cost because of things that are very obvious reasons. You have to do transportation, the freight charges, the clearing charges, even the LC, even getting the foreign exchange to be available, the cost is so much. But if it's produced locally, because we have more of good labor, cost of labor in Nigeria is not that high because of this cost of living here too is low. So we are going to have advantage of labor. We have the market, the population is there to consume. So the producer that are producing, we have the market. Market is already there. So it will open up more economy. There will be employment opportunities. The refinery that have been licensed as far back as 2008, 2009, about 18 licenses. As at date, I don't think any of them have come up to produce. We know the reason. Even of recent, the government introduced your modular refineries. Because the price is regulated, no private investor will want to put his money into to produce a product that does not have the control over the price. But to be deregulated does not mean government is going to leave them entirely to the hand of businessmen, the market forces. Government will still come, to make sure that the populace are not cheated, and they will ensure the quality of the product that they are producing. Know fully whether these are inflammable products. So they must ensure the quality is good, and that's what government will just going to involve himself in more. Not that I want to subsidize it and enable you to sell it at the lower prices to the populace. No. Government will ensure that good quality are coming and that the prices that they are using are competitive. Another thing that we need to also have at the back of our mind that by the time that we have more refineries, competition will come into the business, and the price, which will force the prices down. And we are going to have different grades of white products. You have a grade A, we are in those days we have what called super. If we have ordinary and we have super. All those ones have gone, but they are coming back. So if you have the money to want to buy the super product, you buy. If you have the money to buy then they are going talking of this gas, that compressed gas, as we can be also used to run our motors. They are coming up. So there are going to be a lot of things that will make things better for the people. Okay, to tax, now let me connect to, all what I've said, their multiplier is effect. If there are employment, people will earn their wages, they will pay taxes on their pay to their state. More companies that are coming up to produce, they will have income that will be subject to tax. So definitely tax, SITA will come on non-oil sector because they are regarded as non-oil because it's more of SITA. So they are going to, it's going to be more money to government in the long run, and government will now is not using its money to do things that are not directly affecting the populace. It will be in terms of infrastructures and all those will be opened up because the money now will be available. The money used for something device will now be available to be released to infrastructural development and schools and hospitals.
It does seem that there is clarity of thought on the destination, where we want to be and how to get there. One would only appeal for more diligence on the part of implementers of the government agenda at all levels. Next episode will bring you fresh perspectives on this matter from more stakeholders. In the meantime, let us have your take on the issue. Our contact details are on your screen. Let's roll together again on this same station next week. Same day of the week, same time of the day. Stay safe, stay clean. COVID-19 is real. See you next week.